Coming up on 5 Minute News. Nancy Pelosi to step down as leader but remain in Congress. Senators appeal to FTC over Musk's undermining of Twitter. And 3 people convicted of downing Malaysian jet over Ukraine. It's Friday, November 18. I'm Anthony Davis. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said on Thursday she will not seek a leadership position in the new Congress, making way for a new generation to steer the party after Democrats lost control of the House to Republicans in the midterm elections. Pelosi announced in a spirited speech on the House floor that she will step aside after leading Democrats for nearly 20 years, and in the aftermath of the brutal attack of her husband, Paul, last month in their San Francisco home. The California Democrat, who rose to become the nation's only woman to wield the Speaker's gavel, said she would remain in Congress as the representative from San Francisco, a position she has held for 35 years when the new Congress convenes in January. Pelosi received a standing ovation after her remarks, and lawmakers and guests one by one went up to offer hugs, many taking selfies of a moment in history. It's an unusual choice for a party leader to stay on after withdrawing from congressional leadership, but Pelosi has long defied convention in pursuing power in Washington. In an interview with reporters after her announcement, Pelosi said she won't endorse anyone in the race to succeed her, and she won't sit on any committees as a rank-and-file lawmaker. She said the attack on her husband made me think again about staying. 7 U.S. senators sent a letter on Thursday to the Federal Trade Commission warning that Twitter, now owned by Elon Musk, was acting in disregard of users and urging the agency to investigate any breach of a consent decree that the FTC inked with Twitter. The lawmakers, including Senators Richard Blumenthal and Elizabeth Warren, asked the agency to consider enforcement actions against the company and against individual executives where appropriate. In recent weeks, Twitter's new chief executive officer, Elon Musk, has taken alarming steps that have undermined the integrity and safety of the platform and announced new features despite clear warnings those changes would be abused for fraud, scams, and dangerous impersonation, the lawmakers said in a letter to FTC Chair Lina Khan. The billionaire's first 2 weeks as Twitter's owner have been marked by rapid change and chaos. He quickly fired Twitter's previous CEO and other senior leaders and then laid off half its staff earlier this month. There have been concerns that the upheaval would lead to Twitter failing to abide by a May 2022 settlement with the US regulator in which Twitter agreed to improve its privacy practices and place responsibility on people who held certain positions. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's mandate that employees stop working remotely and put in long hours at high intensity discriminates against workers with disabilities, a new lawsuit claims. Dmitry Borodenko, a California-based engineering manager, said Twitter fired him this week when he refused to report to the office and filed a proposed class action against the company in San Francisco federal court on Wednesday. He said Musk's recent call for Twitter employees to return to the office or quit violates the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires employers to offer reasonable accommodations to workers with disabilities. And former employees of SpaceX have filed unfair labor practice charges with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging they had been retaliated against for writing a letter that was critical of Elon Musk, the company's CEO. A Dutch court on Thursday convicted 3 men of murder for their role in shooting down a Malaysia Airlines passenger jet with a Russian surface-to-air missile, killing all 298 people aboard the aircraft as it flew over a separatist-controlled region of eastern Ukraine in 2014. The convictions, along with the life sentences handed to the 2 Russians and a pro-Moscow Ukrainian, were seen as directing the blame for the jet's downing at the government of Russian President Vladimir Putin, even though the Kremlin has always denied any connection to it. The trial, held in a courtroom near Amsterdam's Schiphol airport, where flight MH17 took off for Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, put the Kremlin's involvement in the separatist conflict in eastern Ukraine at the heart of the case. Against the geopolitical upheaval caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine this year, the court held that Moscow in 2014 had overall control of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, the separatist area where the missile was launched. The judge said that evidence presented by prosecutors in the trial, which lasted more than 2 years, proved that a Boeing 777 was brought down by a Buk missile fired by pro-Moscow Ukrainian fighters on July 17, 2014. The crash scattered wreckage and bodies over farmland and fields of sunflowers. The 298 passengers and crew killed in the downing came from more than a dozen countries, though nearly 200 were Dutch citizens. As relatives of the victims wiped away tears, the judge described their torment of having to wait for the remains of their loved ones to be returned to them. Russians Igor Girkin and Sergei Dubinsky and Ukrainian separatist Leonid Karchenko, who all remain at large, were convicted for their role in bringing the Buk missile system from a Russian military base into Ukraine and putting it into position for its launch. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.